This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on TalkStream Live. Before we get to our guests, there's some breaking news that the news department has asked me to relate to you, the X Zone Nation. The headline is Strathroy, Ontario, Aaron driver, terror suspect, killed in confrontation with police. CBC News has confirmed that Aaron Driver, a suspect being sought in connection with a terror threat, has been killed in a confrontation with police in Strathroy, Ontario. A family member confirmed the death of the 24-year-old. CBC News has learned that Driver's family was told by the RCMP that the police shot Driver. The family was told that Driver detonated a device that he injured himself and another person, and that he had another device that he was going to detonate, which is why the police shot him. The RCMP were conducting an operation in a residential southwestern Ontario neighborhood of Strathroy on Wednesday evening after it said credible information of a potential terrorist act was received earlier in the day. And this is a quote, "A suspect was identified and the proper course of action has been taken to ensure that there is no danger to the public safety." And this is according to an RCMP statement. As this is still an unfolding matter and that the investigation is still underway, we are not able to provide further comment at this time, the RCMP said. Driver, a known ISIS supporter, agreed to the conditions of peace bond in Winnipeg court earlier this year after being arrested in June 2015. By agreeing to the peace bond, Driver was consenting or acknowledging that there are reasonable grounds to fear that he may contribute directly or indirectly in an activity of a terrorist group. Among the conditions of the peace bond was living at a specified address in Strathroy and notifying a specified RCMP sergeant of any changes in his address. Strathroy is home to about 20,000 people and is 40 kilometers west of London. Driver caught the attention of CSIS, Canada's spy agency, in October 2014 when he was tweeting support for the militant group ISIS. He also said the Parliament Hill attack in October of that year by Michael Zefbibo was justified. Ralph Goodale, a Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, said in a statement Wednesday evening he had made Prime Minister Justin Trudeau aware of the situation and repeated that public safety is protected. So that is it. A suspected ISIS terrorist, 24 years old, taken out by law enforcement agencies, as reported by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. One for the good guys. I've been to Strathroy. It's a nice little town. Very quiet. Who would ever suspect? Exonation, my guest this hour is Winter Laake, and he has written 8 groundbreaking books on satanic philosophy and black magic, which push the genre in a whole other level. In his satanic philosophy, he espouses that all men are created evil. He is also a screenwriter and a musician. He currently resides in Chicago. And Winter, welcome to the X Zone.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great having you with us. Where did your interest in Satan and evil come from?
Well, it's a big sweeping topic, and it's a widespread definition. But my interest in satanic philosophy and occultism in general started from an early age, probably about 5 years old, and just kept going since then.
Mm-hmm.
And just something I kept running with, and I began writing about and things like that. I also experienced a lot of supernatural occurrences and so on, and had also worked with police and things to find the missing and the murdered and so on. So I have some psychic ability as well. So it's a broad, sweeping definition.
How do we know evil is real and that the evil that we perceive as being connected with Satan or Lucifer or the fallen angels is not actually the evil or the darker side of each and every one of us?
Well, evil in itself, I believe, as in mankind, is inherently evil.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to build laws and constructs of good around ourselves in order to cordon ourselves from destroying each other. And the reasoning and the big question is, why does that occur? So I started pursuing it in my philosophy. I started to explore, well, why do we need the boundaries of law in order to cordon ourselves? And the grand question was answered as, well, we are inherently evil and we're basically like these savages, and it's just steamrolled from there. Lucifer or Satan or any of these names, which are coming in innumerable, names, thousands of them, for the word of evil, is basically that in itself. Is we give definitions to things as a human process. So what we would call evil or our inherent power towards that, we would say it would be Lucifer and so on. And I do actually believe that it is cosmically of a Lucifer as well. So there's a difference in that I believe that mankind is inherently a demonic force, and that also there is an exterior satanic force within the universe. And whereas a lot of other Satanists, by definitions, are in different camps. Some are aesthetic, where they basically worship themselves. Those could be atheists, or you would have death worshipers. These are the types that are into, wearing corpse makeup and
right.
so on, that praise the aspect of death and seeking an eternal darkness. And then you would have theistic type of Satanist. And I would be actually borrowing all these different types of aspects and exploring it in my philosophy, if that's not too confusing. I don't know.
So let me start at the beginning with you. What is satanic? What is the satanic paradigm?
It is an ideal on which godlike self-preservation endures. The satanic paradigm is a peak experience.
Mm-hmm.
It is a drive of the black magic practitioner to strive and I want to say in an authentic way. Black magic power is the guiding light of a Satanist, and so on. So it is something that we as satanic practitioners or black magic practitioners strive for. It is an ideal and a power, and it's the crux of everything. It began to steamroll in about 2009, and it's been exponential ever since, growing at an exponential rate. It is basically the fastest growing religion in the world, if you'd even call it a religion.
Well, and I don't mean to sound arrogant or ignorant when I ask you this question, so please don't take it the wrong way. But
I won't.
Why would someone want to join the Satanic Church?
Well, why would somebody want to join the Satanic Church?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of individuals. A lot of these individuals are armies of one.
Mm-hmm.
A satanic black magic practitioner, in my opinion, is mostly a solitary practitioner. I don't know if the functionality of, sovereign churches are really effective right now. The Satanic Temple is more a political movement at this point. The Church of Satan, unfortunately, is devolved into a website. Why would somebody want to join something in that realm or join a group? Maybe through, the potential of trying through a coven or something to attain power.
Right.
But it's very hard to say. This is not for everybody. I'm not one that is trying to be a Jehovah's Witness who goes and tries to bring people into this or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's something, in my opinion, that is found, and an individual way would want to be having leanings towards this. So, if someone chooses to join a group, there's still probably not going to be a lot there for them.
I guess I'm going to have to use the television references to the Satanic Church and to black magic, because I've never been to a Satanic Church or to a black magic mass.
Right.
Are they as evil as purported by the media and displayed as through the eyes of Hollywood?
A lot of watered down satanic thought has happened over the past 30 years, and to turn it into a form of philosophy of humanism. There is a demonic pecking order in a satanic society or a satanic group. Are they evil? In my opinion, yes. Are they capable of great evil or to hurt? Absolutely.
But so are the people who go to church.
Yes, indeed, sir. Yes, there are people, fanatics like ISIL and these others that seek to, shove their beliefs down the throats of others.
Mm-hmm.
I think Satanism deviates from that as it's a self-exploration and in almost like using the term where Madame Blavatsky would use as an Aryan aspect to strive to be the greatest and the best, but not necessarily in a racial standpoint where you're thinking you're some kind of superiority or a political Nazi or something like this. It's much more intense and it's much more involved than that. But yes, other groups and religions down through our history has been very bloodthirsty over the several thousand years of our recorded situation with religions and so on. And these extremists are seeking to enforce their rule on someone else. They seek to, shove their Quran down your throat, or they seek to take something from you and force you to do things against your will and so on, like ISIL, blatantly raping these women and so on and attacking these children and so on. Satanism has nothing to do with that, and Satanism does not seek to shove anything down anyone's throat. In my opinion, it does not. And it's not for everybody. ISIL is a barbaric aspect, and again, they're evil. And now see, there you go, right? Is evil one evil greater and then there is a lesser? Now, I'm going to tell you, law is important in this aspect, that law is necessary to cordon ourselves to sophistication. I believe that we live in a civilized evil. These individuals are uncivilized evil, and they need to be destroyed. That aspect of ourselves de-evolves us. We are no longer savages. I've been in debates with other satanic philosophers and so on, and we've debated evil at great lengths, and I have addressed this issue, whereas most will not, and it may be some grand thing that I'm discussing right now. But, you look at ISIL, you look at their barbaric tendencies, their uncivilized ways, and these horrid acts that they commit. Now that must be stamped out. That must be destroyed. And I've been asked, well, isn't that an aspect of evil? Isn't that not someone living out their true will? My answer is no, that is not. That is evil in its lowest base form that must no longer be a part of the human civilization, because we are evolving as a creature, and I think that our progress is slower than it needs to be, but we're evolving into a satanic singularity, and these people want to play with sticks and stones. So there's this great scale of things. Is it a Satanist up on a train platform with a knife trying to stab someone? That shouldn't be an aspect of this philosophy. That is a low base criminal, and that person needs to be destroyed. But these are just opinions within my, using this word again, philosophical record and so on.
Looking at the political situation in the United States, since you live in Chicago, would you say that evil is playing a part in what is unfolding on television sets around, throughout the United States and Canada and the world?
Well, I mean, democracy is a Latin term. It is derives to be ruled by demons, democracy, and so on. I think in our entire record that there has been, they are the highest of our hierarchical demonic pecking order control and so on, and subjugation of humanity and so on. In looking at this current race, which is really mind-boggling because they're so blatant about themselves. For example, Hillary Clinton's old term papers have been brought out, and she's clearly a Luciferian, saying that, Lucifer will grant me a kingdom and so on and so on, and people glaze over it, and they're not looking at that aspect of her personality in the early 70s. And then you have Donald Trump, who is clearly just totally used and abused and burned down people and banks and anything in his way, in his worship of money and avarice to do whatever he wants to do on his own self, demagoguery and so on. So it's bizarre. I mean, it's more blatant than usual. Do you have to have, as a politician, a strategy and a false altruism? In my opinion, you have to show your kindest face and you have to kiss babies and so on,
sure,
even though you don't want to, and you can't really wear your philosophy on your sleeve. And I think that during this race, especially leaning towards Donald Trump, he's wearing his philosophy on his sleeve and he's having great success. There is a possibility that he could be elected. I think it would be terrible. I think he's totally ridiculous in some of his things. I think he would get power, strip it out, and really just want more money or something, which is such a waste of time, because even the Egyptians died with piles of gold in their rooms and so on. So it's a weird time to be alive in this period, and it's also going to be a very bizarre election. And there's a lot riding on it. I mean, it's like the teetering of civilization. It could go forward or it could go backward. I think Hillary Clinton could hold a status quo. I do foresee her winning. I would, in this conjugal of the two-party system, which in itself is corrupt because the two parties work out any other parties, so you're always set with two choices. Because really, as Americans, we should have like 4 or 5 or 6 choices. But, our media only controls it to where you get these 2 candidates and these 2 parties, and it's always a choice between lesser evils. Who is the greater of the lesser, and so on.
Exactly.
And it's bizarre. Even as we've discussed evil, I mean, the populace has to say, okay, who is the lesser evil?
Yeah. And
in our civilized evil and in our cordon law, which is essential, because if we don't have law, we will be at each other's throats.
Right.
and slitting them, which is my crux of the question as well, is like, why? Why does that occur? Why can't we be the altruist who sits under a tree and like plays a little flute and so on and is left alone? But unfortunately, that's just not the case, because you're going to get a group or a horde or whatever, and they're not going to like what he's playing, and they're going to go over and disrupt him and kill him with the flute. So it's just bizarre. And yes, this political regime that we're under is very Illuminati-ish, and I don't really believe in Illuminati, but
so when we're looking at the political arena with Donald Trump, we can truly say that money is the root of all evil.
Absolutely, for him, he is so worshipped of it. You know, Maimon has a hold of him. I mean, avarice is so strong. I mean, the guy has gold gilded chambers, 35 rooms of a tower, and so on. I mean, it's grandiose, and it'd be amazing. And, you know, like any other tyrant throughout our world or worlds that have been in these kind of gilded chambers, you know, like Ivan the Terrible had chambers filled with diamonds and gold and all this. And then we had Saddam Hussein, who had, you know, gold rooms. And ironically, you know, it's been well broadcast and known that Donald Trump adheres to Saddam Hussein, and I think they used the same person to develop their, you know, their modeling and designing within their rooms and so on, because Saddam Hussein had these gold gilded rooms. But it's crazy, and it's dangerous. And when you're dealing with humanity, you need to put on a face, in my opinion, of altruism and peace and love and so on, and to an extent of compassion. Now, as a Satanist, right, I just said that. I believe in those things. I think they're an essential human component as any human could have, you know, but I'm not seeing a lot of that out of him. I'm seeing a lot of just blatant, outrageous talk about, you know, unrestrained Wall Street, and let's just try to make as much money as possible and screw as many people over as possible. That's not good.
No,
that's a road to war.
So let me ask you this, Winter: is Satanism as bad as society thinks it is, or has Satanism received a bad PR rap from the other religious organizations and philosophies?
Well, you know, other Satanists would not say that Satanism isn't as bad as what it is. I would say it's not your altruistic good form. It can, in unrestrained hands and in an unhinged mind, be very, very dangerous, especially if the person is psychic, and especially if some other things are in place. And that's absolutely true in my opinion. I think Satanism is an evolving philosophy. I think it can be very dangerous. I think that a lot of people like Donald Trump are in deed but not word acting in a satanic, maniacal way. Okay? Now, you know, the media and so on has their own hinge on it, and they're going to paint it in the pictures of some kind of supernatural thing. And I think that that's kind of erroneous, because we do live in a four-square world. I mean, there are some supernatural things that can occur, but not to the extent yet to what they're showing. So I think that the media definitely purports a weird end of it that is very basic. It's not looking at, it's not researching it and so on. And that's just what the media does. It appeals to the lowest percentile, your 8th grade education, your non-readers, and so on and so on, you know, and that's what that does. And religion in general, if we were looking at Christianity or so on and so on, these other types and extreme forms of Christianity, they have always used it as the us versus them philosophy, and it keeps their, you know, religionists in line, you know, the worship of certain things. And Jesus, too. I mean, the aspect of Jesus and his philosophy, it would be a great thing, in my opinion, if we could be altruists like Jesus said, but they'll just end up crucified. They'll end up destroyed. That's why I've embraced black magic might. But yes, you know, Christianity in extremity has always painted Satanism as a worship of a devil as giving into your evil nature and so on. But, in this world, Satanism is the fastest growing religion in the world, if you can call it that. Mm-hmm. And the Christian churches and relics are dying. There is no one going anymore. No one believes in the philosophy anymore. A lot of the Christian churches are boarded up and so on. And that's just, it's happening in our society. People are also falling into sensory stimulus. They're into their social networks, and they're falling into line that way. And they want to be on display into some kind of false celebrity reality. So there's a lot of competitions with anything that could happen. But Satanism, from my perspective, is a found philosophy that can enhance your mind and take yourself to a whole nother level.
All right, let's
of
talk
existence.
more about this when we come back from our news break at the bottom of the hour with Amanda Kerr. Exo Nation, my guest of this hour is Winter Lake. His website is www.winterlake.com, and Lake is spelled Laake. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We'll be back on the other side of this news as we continue from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
Listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
This is News from the X-Zone. I'm Amanda Curran. Astronomers have made fascinating, yet equally perplexing discoveries in our Milky Way as of late, including the discovery of a strange gas cloud, 16,000 times more massive than our Sun, which should have disintegrated upon colliding with the Milky Way's galactic disk, but didn't, and is now blowing an enormous bubble of empty space into our galaxy. This hole is 3,000 light-years wide. This latest find shows how better radio telescopes can tug out details that were missed by earlier observations into these super shells, and scientists hope that this will shed new light on how stars form throughout the universe and how supernova can give birth to large swatches of interstellar dust that eventually create new stars and planets. Elon Musk's vision of a solar city will soon be releasing integrated, power-generating roofing structures that he states is not a thing on the roof, it is the roof. Musk explains that each roof will be custom-made and delivered as a kit for installation, and Solar City's CEO, Lyndon Riv, who is also Musk's cousin, adds that there are about 5 million new roofs installed every year in just the U.S., though the company is losing money. Though Musk didn't share any details with one of the 2 new projects Solar City would be launching in the near future, he believes that if your roof is nearing the end of its life, and you have to get a new roof anyway, why not have a solar roof that is better in many other ways as well? Here's proof that strange phenomenon can happen anywhere, anytime. An embarrassing anomaly hit the Olympic diving pool Tuesday morning as competitors and fans arrived to watch the women's synchronized 10-meter platform final to find that the pool had turned a complete, dark, murky green. Making the sight even more striking and bizarre was the fact that the pool only a few meters beside the infected pool was still crystal blue. While officials were at a total loss for words or explanation, the oddity proved again how the athletes at the games got there. China's Liu Huxia, who won gold in diving, said, "When we were practicing to get used to this venue, the water was always sky blue, but we're always mentally prepared for unexpected situations." American diver Jessica Peretto even joked, "We got a personal best score, so maybe we should ask for a green pool from now on. I kind of liked it." Olympic officials at Rio have assured the public that the dark green water doesn't pose a risk to the athletes who have to swim in it, and in an update to the story, have now since stated that due to the athletes complaining that the water was too cold, the alkaline levels rose, causing possible algae growth, which led to the interesting spectacle. I'm Amanda Curran, News from the X-Zone.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X-Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net.
Exonation, Winter Lake is our very special guest this hour, www.winterlake.com, and Lake is spelled L-A-A-K-E. Winter, are we in the end times as depicted in the Book of Revelations, or is there any part of any satanic book or philosophy that equates to the Christian or the biblical interpretation of the Book of Revelation?
In modern theories, no. I think Lord Byron had written some things in borrowing about the Book of Revelation. I know Aleister Crowley had written a few things and tapping in to his obsession with the Bible and so on. I personally think the Bible is just a bloodthirsty doctrine. It conflicts itself in many different ways and contraries. But is there an end of the times? Psychically, I've seen many kind of end times occur even in my own lifetime. I don't know if it's a predisposition or an obsession within humanity to think about the end of all things. I think at any moment it could be a great possibility, considering the overpopulation that we are experiencing. The planet and its unsustainable, abilities is going to be going to from 7 to 14 billion and so on. And it's just not a sustainable equation. I think if we look at this mathematically, if we do leap to such a high number, that there would be an apocalypse of some kind, no matter what, or a mass extermination event, because the earth is not sustainable at that rate. There's not enough water, there's not enough food, and so on. And it would I think the end times could happen really at any minute. and people think I'm crazy when I say that. But, with the way things are and the type of volatility, with the type of weapons that we have developed, the fraction of the failure is more than ever. It's like you cannot stave off nuclear war forever. Like nuclear war is eventual on a calculable scale, as we go and move forward, because there's just so many different groups trying to get mass destructive weapons. It's always in our mentality. And I think possibly within our lifetime, we're either going to go through some kind of extermination event, or we're going to evolve off of this planet and go out into space and conquer it, which I think that would be mankind's inevitable goal. But if we stay here and overpopulate ourselves, it's just going to be a frenzy of devouring and destruction.
And we've seen this in the past, and it's ironic that human beings do not learn from the past. They really don't. You know, we've seen the weeding out of humanity with the Black Plague and other diseases, as well as war.
Absolutely, and AIDS too.
Exactly.
I mean, just like AIDS, the HIV virus, and so on. It's mankind does not learn, and it still lives in its bubble. And now with social network and so on, it cordons itself further into its isolated bubble. And the less people communicate and they live in a sense of falsehood, the closer we come to annihilation.
What is the draw, the fascination between young people, satanic rituals, and witchcraft?
Well, the struggle to comprehend inherent evil, I think, is the self-realization, of one's full potential. It's like a vital Luciferian furtherance. I think that the fascination is that they feel that they can be greater than themselves, and they can. I think through Satanism and witchcraft, in tapping into their primal nature, their primal energy, and tapping into the supernatural throughout the cosmos, that, is a goal to live bigger than themselves, to strive larger for themselves. Satanism strives perpetually towards an ultimate power, to overcome mortality and exist forever. I think that, Satanism rejects the notion that a nirvana exists someplace beyond the end of life. And I think that here and now is very important in Satanism. And I think that draws the hordes in. The networks are unbelievable. The internet is all going into the occult, either whether it's crystal gazing or trying to see something that is not there, and seances and so much. I mean, it's just a striving for the here and now and to live eternally.
What is the connection, if any, between Satanism and witchcraft?
Well, I think they're basically one and the same.
Okay.
Witchcraft is a beautiful thing. It is still looking to the supernatural to find answers. You're still looking, you're still wanting, whether you cast a spell, and say, Euronymous or some other name, you're projecting unto the universe or projecting unto yourself to make fiction fact, to manifest your desires. It's kind of like, a thing where you have something of the fanciful and you want to make it into a reality. And I think witchcraft and Satanism both have that in common, and they both do the same thing. Whatever works for a person, if they don't want to go to some extremity, or they're saying that it is satanic and they can call something by a different name or whatever, it doesn't matter. I believe it's all just one source anyway, one satanic source within and one satanic source throughout the universe, that it's at one with us. I do not think that there is any division. I do not worship a devil. I think that I am a devil, that I am at one with the universe. It's a Mephistophelian concept, and so on. And witchcraft is the same thing. And any other types of different religious aspects. I mean, and even if a Christian seeks to pray, they pray to set themselves to right. Whether you want to say, please, Jesus, redeem my soul, and so on, you're praying to an exterior force to cause an outcome. You still seek a prideful outcome. And it's just, a way of looking at things. But I'm a serious explorer of our philosophy over the past 5,000 years. My background is quantum physics and philosophy. So, it's high mathematics and quantum thinking, and it's, also the human record, looking at how humans think, the variety of different philosophers that have come on to our world stage and the ones that were coming into the future. So it's a broad base.
I believe that this universe of ours is a binary universe made of zeros and ones, and I relate it to up, down, in, out, right, left, black, white, and so on and so forth. For every positive, there is a negative. That being said, could evil exist without good?
Well, I think they're all one. I think that evil and good are the same. It's just different, levels or layers to this. Good is a construct. I think it goes hand in hand with law. I think if we did not have law in place, there would be no good. I think there would be actions of some type of compassion and so on and so on. But I think our animism and our savage nature would come to the fore. I think we would go out and cannibalize each other and destroy each other. And that is the crux of my question, why? I think that good would be a great place to be in some kind of psychic utopia and have this, where we're all perfect and we are all one. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, as we are now in our animal natures and our satanic nature, it's not possible. And it's just a deviation from, a lot of what other people think, that there is this separation. I don't think there is. I think that mankind, over its inlay, over its centuries, its Akashic record, has built the construct of good to a civilized evil, that we kind of cordon ourselves off and say, okay, we're these are the boundaries and we need to live within these boundaries. And if we don't, then, we're going to be punished and so on. And if we don't have that in place, we'll be unrestrained, and our Satanism will be unrestrained.
In Christianity, in Catholicism, and in other religious philosophies, there's a heaven, a utopia, a nirvana. From what people have read, people have heard, when it comes to Satanism or satanic or black magic, there is hell. Is that a real place, or is that what we experience here on this planet at this time in this reality?
I don't think that a heaven or hell exists. I think that the grand question of death is really interesting. I've really seriously explored it and remote viewed it. I have been given no indication of a hell. I see a lot of energy transference. Once the lights go out here, they come on in another entity somewhere in the universe. The Earth is a speck of dust in a vast cosmic storm. So we are looking at, the quantum realities and the parallel universes, which are endless. In an infinite amount of space, you have an infinite amount of possibility. So you cannot rule anything else out, however. Could a hell or a heaven be created in our mental prosthesis? Absolutely. In a process of humanity? Absolutely. But then again, me personally, I don't believe in heaven and hell. I don't believe my outcome will be that. I think that humanity mentally can create a heaven or hell and maybe have that for them when they die. But me personally, I do not believe that dynamic exists within my thinking.
What is your take on the current UFO phenomenon?
UFOs are very interesting. Aliens exist. I have remote viewed into the universe. I've seen a lot of other types. The narcotic dimetropyline has really enhanced people's pineal gland, and they have been able to perceive alien entities as well using the narcotic. I think it enhances, many other aspects as well. But I am just a straight remote viewer, a psychic, and so on. So I don't necessarily use dimetropyline. I'm just giving an example of how things can be seen or achieved. The UFO phenomena is something where humanity is is seeing things which, in my opinion, are very real. You can't say that there's nothing else in the universe. It's just not a calculable outcome. It defies mathematics. Again, in looking at, infinity, if we believe that we are looking out into an infinity of space and time, that there is absolutely something else out there looking back at us. And there's huge swaths of time and light years between us and them and so on. I do think that there are types of aliens that have the ability to bend space and to arrive here and analyze us and so on. We are nowhere near that. I do believe, however, that they are also, whatever has come here has been mostly altruistic. That means that they may have evolved beyond a need to conduct evil against themselves and are strictly into an exploratory aspect. And I would like to see that for humanity, but unfortunately that's not the case. Humanity is so bloodthirsty, it's so ruthless, and it's really stuck into a one-dimensional existence, a type 1 realization.
All right, please stand by. I've got to take my final break here, Winter. Great talking to you. Thank you very much for the exchange and for telling us all about the Satanic paradigm. Exonation. Hey, we're not finished yet. We have one more little segment to go, but
okay, sir.
Exonation. Winter Lake is our guest, and his website is winterlake.com. And don't forget, Lake has 2 A's. And I'll be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with our guest, Winter Lake, talking about the Satanic paradigm.
President of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
And welcome back to the X Zone. Winter Lake is our special guest for this hour, X Zone Nation. And it's been a very interesting hour. Thank you very much for joining us, Winter. But you've written that all men are created evil. What do you mean by that?
Essentially that mankind in its record of bloodthirst and war and destruction is showing that it is inherently evil, that by all of its methods, its construct of law and good coordinates itself and keeps itself in line in order to keep it from annihilating itself. And the aspect of my philosophy, well, why does that occur? If we remove the bounds of law, why do we act in these savage ways? And I arrived at the entirety of it is that mankind is created evil, that all men are created evil. And it was quite an expansive exploration. I went through all of the different philosophers. I looked at different things and so on. So it wasn't just like some, sweeping thing where I just said, oh, yes, this and so on. I really went into it and studied it.
So let me ask you this. What is your definition of the word evil?
Evil is a huge scale from the lesser to the greater, and it's everything from the acts of barbarity that we see, the low-grade evil that we must not have in our civilization, like ISIS and these crazy religious nuts or people that seek to destroy and enslave, to a higher elevated evil, a Mephistophelian concept of a higher mind that peers out into the universe, that seeks to conquer it, that craves it, and as opposed to self-destruction or annihilating one another. And I think anything in between there, it's a mass scale. It's all one force, though. It's one dark spirit. It's not divided. There is no division of good or evil. It's all one force, and there's different levels to it.
My final question to you is a very simple one. Does war actually move mankind forward?
Well, war can and will, and it does it to a certain extent. It makes things occur. During World War II, there was a lot of constructs. We went from a remedial aspect to jets and pre-computers and advanced algorithm and so on. So war galvanizes mankind to achieve great things. And unfortunately, we've gotten to a point with our weaponry that we'll just annihilate ourselves in our next war. But it might take us a little further in something known as a satanic singularity, which is coming on the horizon probably within the next 20 years, where we merge with our machines and we become more advanced and live forever in some kind of cyborg reality. So I do believe that war advances us, but that double-edged sword is that it can also wipe us out. And we are getting to a point in 2016, 2017, that, with the type of weapons they have, that it could cause great catastrophe. So when you have politicians like Donald Trump, who's just throwing around nuclear attack like it's nothing, you got to be careful of that, because that's just crazy. The type of nuclear weapons that are out right now, a few of them could destabilize whole regions, contaminate mass areas, cause mass death, and so on. And you can't control that because, okay, let's say that exchange occurs and he wants to use them on something, and then, China uses them, or, these computers, they, as we've seen even in the 1980s, they can react on their own.
Yeah.
So once they see that cataclysmic event, it surpasses human control. So there's a lot of things with war. I have said that statement. I do think that war can advance mankind, but I'm also kind of pulling it back a little bit, and I'm viewing it really honestly, and I'm saying that I think it could definitely also cause mass extermination.
Winter, I hate to do this, but you and I have got to say so long for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I'd love to have you back on in the future.
Well, awesome, and thank you so much.
You take care of yourself, my friend. Exonation Winter Lake has been our guest this hour. His website is www.winterlake.com, and don't forget, Lake has 2 A's in it. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal.